Hello and welcome to the T20 edition of Cricket Underrated. I'm Abhishek Ambulkar, and along with Ehtisham Khan, we'll be taking a look at the El Clasico of IPL cricket. Yes, IPL tournament has produced humdingers over the years, but no contest comes close to the Mumbai Indians versus Chennai Super Kings encounter. And it won't be unfair to call it the El Clasico of franchisee cricket. There's always been this rivalry between two of the most successful IPL teams of all time.
Yes, hello everyone. Hi Abhishek. And as you rightly pointed out, we'll be discussing the rivalry between CSK and MI in this podcast. Well, these two teams have been the top two IPL teams without any doubt. 7 out of the last 12 IPL titles, actually there have been 12 IPLs thus far, and 7 of the titles of these IPLs have went to these two teams, with MI winning 4 titles and CSK winning 3. So yes, these two teams and the clashes between them, it is the main course of IPL, without any denial.
Now, let's take a look at why it is called the most epic rivalry of IPL cricket.
Talking about CSK, well, they've played 10 out of the 12 IPL. For obvious reasons, they were not part of IPL for 2 seasons, but they reached 8 finals out of those 10 IPLs that they played in, and they have been in top four in every season that they have been a part of. So I think it is a stupendous record, and they also have 3 titles, as everyone knows. Well, talking about MI, the initial few seasons for them were not so good, but they've played all 12 IPLs and 8 times they have ended in top four. They've won 4 out of the 5 finals. That is 80% conversion ratio after reaching the finals. So that is phenomenal from MI. And they have 4 titles, and it is the maximum number of titles that any team has won ever in IPL. So yes, these two teams are at the top.
Well, as we started this podcast, it was clear that these high octane matches have been quite riveting for all the fans to witness. Now, if we look at the record between these two teams, and out of which Mumbai Indians have won 12 matches and Chennai Super Kings have managed to win 7 out of them. So it clearly shows that Mumbai Indians have been dominating since the last few seasons. But it's always a fascinating contest between these two sides. They have clashed against each other 4 times in the finals of the IPL. Now let's look at the 5 most epic encounters between these two teams, and we'll go in chronological order.
So listeners, just to specify, these 5 matches that we would be discussing in this segment are non-final matches. The final matches between CSK and MI, we'd be discussing it separately.
Okay, so let's start with the inaugural edition of IPL. It was the eighth match of the inaugural edition of IPL, and CSK were playing their first home game at CHEPAUK. Mumbai Indians won the toss and asked CSK to bat first, and it was proving to be a disastrous decision for Mumbai Indians as Matthew Hayden just plundered the bowling attack of Mumbai Indians, and Mumbai Indians ended up conceding 208 runs. And it was not looking great for Mumbai Indians when they came out to score and chase this huge mountain of 208 runs. And in 16th over, it looked like Mumbai will be losing this game by a huge margin when they lost 6 wickets. But Abhishek Nair, who is the domestic hero for Mumbai team, turned up along with Harbhajan Singh, who almost managed to spoil the CSK's perfect game, but fell just short of 6 runs. And it would just be a beginning of mouth-watering clashes in the near future. Now moving on to 2011, Mumbai Indians were batting first this time, and they had managed to score 164 runs. And yes, it was not a huge total, but always these total are very tricky to chase. Chasing this total, CSK were in control till about 17 overs, and it was a brave call to give the 18th over to Harbhajan Singh, who had bowled really well up till that point. And Subramaniam Badrinath, who was anchoring this chase beautifully, was left stranded at one end because Harbhajan Singh picked up 3 wickets in the 18th over and completely baffled the CSK. And that was it. for the Mumbai Indians. That one over completely changed the game, and Mumbai Indians ended up winning this game just by meager margin of 8 runs at Wankhede Stadium.
Those were two epic matches. I would like to talk about the third one. It was the 2012 edition, and Dwayne Smith came out of nowhere to shock Chennai Super Kings. Talking about the match, chasing 174 to win, Mumbai Indians were in cruise control and were going on their hunky-dory way towards victory when a collapse occurred. Needing 14 runs of the last three deliveries with Hilfenhaus bowling. And I would like to tell you that Hilfenhaus was a great bowler back in those days. And Dwayne Smith smashed him for 14 runs, hitting three boundaries consecutively of the last three deliveries to win a famous match for Mumbai Indians. Well, it made Dwayne Smith a name within the CSK management, as one could tell in the next season he was bought by CSK as their opener. So yes, it was one of those, you can call it a humdinger of a run chase, and Dwayne Smith was at the center of it.
And like they say in IPL, it just takes one innings to completely change one player's fortunes. And that one innings came for Hardik Pandya against the great Chennai Super Kings team. Back then in 2015, when Mumbai Indians were playing against CSK at Chennai, they were in dire straits and they required a lot of runs in the last 3 overs. Rohit Sharma had just got out at the wrong time. When the equation became 30 runs to get in the last 2 overs, out came Hardik Pandya and smashed Pawan Negi for huge 4 sixes in that 19th over. And that over changed the complexion of Hardik Pandya's life because Mumbai Indians went on to win the match from a very difficult situation and very precarious situation. So this was one close match where the fortunes kept fluctuating for both the sides, but it was in the end cool-headed Hardik Pandya who saw his team through. And we all knew back then that he was onto something special.
And to end this segment of epic league games between MI and CSK, how can we not talk about the IPL 2018 opener between MI and CSK? Well, it was the comeback match for CSK. They were coming out of their 2 year exile that they faced in IPL. And it was a comeback match. CSK were regarded as Daddy's Army, and everyone was skeptical about how they would perform against a very good MI and throughout the IPL as well. Talking about the game, it was again a humdinger of a run chase. Mumbai Indians batting first, batted pretty well and got to 165 runs. And it was a decent total considering the pitch and the opening match that it was. Well, CSK's chase began pretty decently, but debutant Mayank Markande wreaked havoc in the middle overs, and CSK were reeling at one stage when Kedar Jadhav got retired hurt at 83 for 5. Well, Dwayne Bravo kept CSK in the match, and in the last 3 overs, he went berserk and smashed Mitchell McClenaghan and Jasprit Bumrah all over the park. Well, but it was very unfortunate for him to get out on the last ball of the 19th over, leaving CSK with 7 runs to win of the last 6 balls. But CSK were 9 wickets down. And Kedar Jadhav, who had this injury and couldn't run, had to come out. Well, he was on strike, knowing that he couldn't run. And Mustafizur did the mistake of bowling at the same position to Kedar Jadhav. And Jadhav anticipated pretty well, smashed Mustafizur for a 6, leaving CSK with 1 run to win. With Imran Tahir on the non-striker side, Jadhav smashed a boundary, leading to epic celebrations and a famous victory for CSK in the Wankhede Stadium. And it was the perfect start that they could have had in the IPL on their return.
Well, that was pretty much it about the league stage matches, which were very close and went down to the wire. Now let's talk about the finals between these two teams. They have faced each other 4 times in the IPL finals, and out of 4 times, Mumbai Indians have the advantage of beating CSK on 3 occasions.
Yes, Abhishek, absolutely. Mumbai Indians have had the edge over CSK when it comes to the finals. But talking about the last final in 2019, well, it could have been a different story. It was a very close match. Mumbai Indians winning it by 1 run with a wicket falling of the final ball. It was heartbreak for the CSK fans and joy for the Mumbai Indians fan. But when you think about it, if this match could have gone the other way, it could have been 2-2, but could have been, would have been, should have been. And Mumbai Indians have that knack of winning finals. As we already mentioned, they have 80% record of winning the finals. So yes, Mumbai Indians have been better in the finals against CSK.
And Elisham, if we just quickly revisit that match, Mumbai Indians once again ending up with not so good total, 149 runs, but it's always the big finals and the pressure gets to you and the nerves are jangling. And CSK just needed 9 runs in the final over. And CSK had Shane Watson, who was playing the innings of the IPL. And it was up to Lasith Malinga, who had to defend just 9 runs, with the said batsman Shane Watson still out there, batting on 80. And what a brilliant bowling performance that was from Lasith Malinga. Of course, there was a bit of misunderstanding in the final over, which resulted in the dismissal of Shane Watson. But that 1 over showed why he is still considered as the best death over specialist for any T20 side and for the value he brings for any side which he plays for. That resulted in a famous victory of Mumbai Indians in the last edition, which was played in 2019.
Talking about Malinga, well, credit must be given to him. He has been a legend for so many years now. And in that final, I remember the last ball that he bowled to Shardul Thakur was a slower one. So you require a lot of courage as a player to do this on the final ball of the tournament, and he executed it to perfection. So yeah, kudos to Malinga. He's a legend, and well, he will be missing this edition of IPL as we all know. So yes, it will be difficult for Mumbai Indians to find a replacement for him. But yes, he has been a great player. So Malinga is missing IPL, and apart from Malinga, a lot of players are missing this edition of IPL because of various reasons. Health concerns due to COVID being the topmost reason. Talking about CSK, the two main players, their only off spinner Harbhajan Singh will not be playing this IPL, and their stalwart number three has been his position in CSK forever now, and Suresh Raina won't be a part of the setup this year, and it is a big blow for CSK, and they'll have to adjust their balance. We talked about COVID and players missing IPL, and for the players who would be playing, well, I think they'll find themselves a bit rusty. Many of them, no competitive cricket being played in most parts of the world for the past 5 to 6 months, and we saw a clear example of what rustiness could do in a recent T20 match that was between England and Australia, the first T20 I am talking about. The Australian players looked very rusty while chasing a modest total at the end. So I think a few matches in IPL would also be affected due to players being out of form, out of touch, swinging at the ball, not connecting. It might happen, and I think we should discuss about that as well.
Yes, absolutely, Atisha. Because I remember, I think one of the players was saying about the confidence. This game of cricket is pretty much about confidence and the way you execute those skills. And players start to question themselves in these tough situations where they are away from their families, playing outside India, and it's not a great situation to be in. And remember, there won't be any crowd to support them. And along with the confidence at the shop, I think one of the bigger concerns for players would be the injury, how they manage to come out of it, and their fitness will be tested because out of competitive cricket for this long, I think this has never happened before. So that will be also a big factor, and that's when the support staff will come into picture. how to keep the players fresh and ready to go for all the matches, because IPL takes a lot out of the players with all the traveling and all the matches which are scheduled very closely.
Yes, you are absolutely right here. And though teams have got limited options, but still they have to choose their perfect and the best 11 from what is available on the platter.